Welcome to the Bitcoin Stats Show, a weekly video podcast where we look at all the big stories in the world of cryptocurrency, and it is of course brought to you by the team behind the Bitcoin Stats app. Me, Will Francis, Sam Billingham, and this week our special guest, Richard Francis at Rich186. Not 186.
Pleasure to be here.
Sorry. Absolutely, an honour to have you, mate. Rich is he is the developer of the iOS version of the Bitcoin Stats app.
I am indeed.
In fact, firstly, a question: what was the hardest part of building the app for iOS?
I mean, to be honest, it's quite a simple app, but I guess I paid a lot of attention to the interface, how it works, how it scrolls between the views, and how it responds to touch, and that took the most time, for sure.
Yeah, the sort of final 10%.
The little tiny little touches that really make the difference.
Yeah, it shows as well, compared to a lot of the other apps that are out there. You can really see the finer details.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it's slick. So thanks to Rich, we have it on iOS and Android. Anyway, enough plugging of the app. Let's look at the big news in crypto. So basically, this week, a company called Cryptex launched a debit card which allows you to go to any normal ATM and withdraw a fiat currency, US dollars and pounds, not that they're really useful anymore, from a Bitcoin account. Anybody heard anything more about that? Thoughts?
I've heard, I told you before the show, I've been a bit out of the loop recently.
That's why you're here. You're the man on the street.
Well, this is it, yeah. So I heard about Bitcoin ATM. There's obviously a lot of Bitcoin ATMs where you can deposit Bitcoin, right? But
yeah, or get Bitcoin onto your wallet by dropping cash in.
Yeah, normal way to just drop cash.
Yeah, exactly. You deposit Bitcoin into your wallet, you use fiat and deposit fiat into the machine, right?
Yeah.
But this one is, you're saying you use your Bitcoin wallet to take out fiat currency.
Well, kind of, but it's actually that step beyond where it's an actual debit card.
Yeah.
So you can put the debit card into normal ATMs. So you go to a Lloyd's bank down in the high street, put your debit card in.
Right, I see. Okay.
And you can request cash. But in the back end, Cryptex, essentially they must operate as a bank, but issue that money based on Bitcoin that you've deposited with them online.
Right, I see. Okay.
So
it's really interesting that they've been able to do that.
Yeah,
it is.
And I think people would be shocked if they knew that. Like a lot, you see all these interviews where people don't even know what Bitcoin is. They haven't heard about it. They don't understand.
Yeah.
Whereas what they don't realise is that the guy in front of them in the ATM queue, it hasn't got a bank from the JP Morgan, HSBC. He's got some debit card that's from some cryptocurrency bank, and he's been paying with his Bitcoin. I think people would be genuinely surprised that is now a thing.
Yeah.
Because essentially you can pay with Bitcoin with that debit card. You can pay with your Bitcoin sort of anywhere down in Walmart, Marks and Spencers, whatever. And so whilst still it's like the Square story we talked about last week, which is like a mobile payment system that takes Bitcoin. Essentially, it always has to go back into dollars because that is the global currency, and that's always kind of the sticking point or the issue.
Yeah. It's an odd one, isn't it? Because it's kind of going like sort of full circle. It's Bitcoin fanatics are always talking about. I wouldn't class myself now as a Bitcoin fanatic. I was a Bitcoin fanatic, but I haven't really been doing much with Bitcoin lately. But everyone's talking about how how Bitcoin should be adopted as a major currency, fiat is dead, etc.
Yeah.
But it's funny because you're converting Bitcoin back into fiat to use it, in shops. So I'm not sure what hardcore Bitcoin fanatics would think of that. Is it a good thing for Bitcoin, like converting it back into fiat so you can spend it at places, or is it better to wait for developments in Bitcoin for Bitcoin to evolve into a currency that would naturally be adopted by retailers in due course?
More big news. This week there was an interesting conference in the O2 which is a big venue in London. And it was a panel talking about Bitcoin, which they happen quite regularly now. But there was also a Bitcoin fight night where there was kickboxing, a kickboxing event at the end of it, which is quite interesting take on that. And the Feathercoin co-founder, Chris Ellis, was the host of this. So it was quite interesting, actually.
Right.
Some interesting points came up, I thought. Some interesting snippets, which I've noted down. I mean, they made the point that ultimately, it's the point that all conversations about Bitcoin arrive at. It's the fact that you have to be really on top of things to make Bitcoin work. You have to be very tech savvy, and you have to know a lot about how peer-to-peer currencies work. And Bitcoin will only be a success when people don't have to know how it works. He made the analogy of, people don't have to open up their iPhone and know how it works. They just use this slick front end, and it just does stuff. And they also, people at that made the point that Bitcoin may never be able to be that. Bitcoin was a prototype, essentially.
Yeah.
And whether Bitcoin itself can be morphed into that user-friendly product isn't clear. It may be that a future cryptocurrency that can be user-friendly needs to usurp it. We don't really know at this point.
Yeah, we don't really know, but I think there's enough money like in Bitcoin and going into Bitcoin with like new startups being founded, and a lot of the Bitcoin fanatics, as you say, that were involved a few years ago have all of a sudden got all this wealth that they can try new things with. So there's a lot of money floating around, and enough money seems to solve these problems. There's there's new apps coming out almost every day now, and like people have great ideas, and it's almost like people know how to solve a lot of these UX style problems. They just haven't got around to actually building it yet.
But I mean, to take other tech analogies, I mean, if you look at almost anything, whether it's Facebook, eBay, Google, the one that makes it and that goes mainstream is never the first. Google wasn't the first search engine, Facebook wasn't the first social network, etc. And the list goes on. I can't actually think of.
Bitcoin wasn't the first digital currency.
No, very true. That's a fair point. Yeah, it's a fair point. But I guess the questions are just around whether it's insurmountable to turn Bitcoin. Those barriers to turning Bitcoin into something my mum could use.
Yeah.
Feel hard to surmount at the moment.
I mean, using something like Coinbase isn't too far away from using something like PayPal.
True.
I mean, if you can send people money via an email address and they can receive it. The people get caught up on this thing that they have to know everything about Bitcoin, and something that trips people up is the fact that they'll be sending like 0.001 or something, and some people just can't deal with decimals.
I mean, I think I personally can't see why Bitcoin couldn't evolve into something that would be usable by my mum, for instance, who barely knows how to turn on a computer. So there seems to be quite a healthy app ecosystem around Bitcoin right now. It's developing. It seems to be developing quite fast. There's a lot of innovation going on. There's like a load of investment being poured into Bitcoin, whether it's in the form of Bitcoin or fiat, particularly in the US. Just the other week I went on Hide My Ass. Beg my pardon my French. The VPN provider, and I paid for a 6 month VPN subscription using BitPay, using Bitcoin via BitPay's interface, and it was super smooth. I went on there and it presented me with the QR code. I got my phone out, I scanned the QR code, and okay, it was a little bit slow. That's one thing that I don't know how
to confirm
that's going to be handled in the future, but to confirm, the confirmations are obviously still taking quite a long time. But the interface was great. I mean, it gave me a countdown, 15-minute countdown. I scanned the code, using my CoinJar app on the iPhone, which is now not available, and it paid, and it went through in about I guess sort of 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
I got an email from the VPN provider. Everything. I've now got my VPN. It's great.
Talking about BitPay, they actually have a payroll API.
Really?
And this week, an Irish company, GSM Solutions, they started paying their employees in Bitcoin.
That's cool. How does that work with tax?
Yeah.
I mean, I know Ireland's a bit of a...
They do what they want, don't they?
Well, no, it's not that. They just have 12% corporation tax.
It's a fitting place to...
Sort of, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, how does it work with tax? I've no idea. But what they say is that they, on payday, they take the euro
exchange rate.
Yeah, and how many euros they should pay that employee, and they just turn it into Bitcoin.
So it's probably just your bottom line after all your tax has been sorted out. That's probably paid for you, and then you just get whatever you would normally get.
And which company is
Bitcoin
this?
I think they're I'm not sure how big they are. A smallish company called GSM Solutions.
Okay.
And it's partly a PR thing to show that they're tech savvy, but it's quite interesting. I mean, other than that, I'm not sure what the benefits are. I mean, to an employee, my landlord doesn't take Bitcoin.
I'd be pretty bummed if I received my salary in Bitcoin.
If you want to buy some Bitcoin like with your salary, up online, get it.
Exactly. I mean, it is kind of like in the same way if they paid me in yen. It'd be like, well, that's kind of cool.
Well, yen would be more useful.
Well, exactly.
I mean, let's face it. We all love Bitcoin, but if you're going to receive your salary in Bitcoin, I mean, what can you do with? What can you do with it? You can't do much with it now. You can't really buy your groceries.
The way, if you want to hold some Bitcoin, the way you should be doing it is you get your money, your normal money that you want to use to live, and then if you've got some spare money that you want to keep in Bitcoin, go ahead and get some. You'd have
invest.
your salary would have to be pretty redundant at this point to be just be giving it out in Bitcoin.
I mean, I would put my money on most of those employees cashing it back into fiat, selling it on
almost immediately. Yeah, I'd say so. And also this week, I was going to say something really important.
Getting paid in Bitcoin then might be a good way to get your pay in different currencies.
Wait, are we still recording?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah. If you get paid in, it depends how they work it out.
Yeah. Well, wait, should we say that again?
I don't know what you mean.
Because if you get it in Bitcoin...
Stop from the beginning. Say...
Yeah, stop from the beginning.
Because we fucked up a bit.
I was just thinking out in my head while you were talking about something, sorry.
Go on.
What was I saying? But yeah, getting paid in Bitcoin might actually be a good way to actually receive your salary in a different currency, if in fact you want to exchange it. So say... Rather than they use euros in Ireland.
Yeah.
Rather than getting paid in euros, if say maybe they work in multiple different currencies, or they
so say you have 20 employees in different places around the world.
No, I mean more on like a personal level. So
right.
Rich flies to Russia quite often, Russia quite a lot. If your main job say was in Ireland and they paid you in Bitcoin, you could then just exchange it in a Russian exchange and get rupees.
Yeah.
It depends how the exchange works out for them trading to Bitcoin, and then the exchange you use to whether it would be more beneficial to change your money to Bitcoin.
It's all down to liquidity again, isn't it? That's the problem. You can't beat US dollars or euros.
Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's also down to the exchanges available in that country. And I mean, if I was in Russia, for instance, and someone gave me Bitcoin and I wanted to cash that into rubles. I don't know how I would do that, because there are some exchanges that would do that, but I'd need a Russian bank account and all these things. I'm just thinking out loud.
That might
it's
be
true,
the best
actually. Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? Outside of
it depends on the
dollars, euro, and pounds. It's actually quite hard to turn your Bitcoin into the less popular currencies of the world.
That's it. Hopefully it gets easier.
Yeah. And talking about Bitcoin, because that's what the podcast is about. So it seems fitting to talk about more news in relation to it. There's a European Bitcoin ATM maker, Paymac, and they're to market €1,000 ATMs. So for €1,000 you can buy an ATM, stick it in your coffee shop, place of work, and that brings us on to the favourite regular segment of the show. It's ATM Watch, because every week there's a story about ATMs. It's a sort of the almost like the clearest sign that Bitcoin is infiltrating our world is these ATMs popping up, and there's been more in London. There's now a Robocoin ATM. So Robocoin is a brand of ATM that's been
it's not a currency.
Much louder. No. It's a Bitcoin. No, that's it.
I can't keep track of all these guys.
Yeah. No, it's a Bitcoin ATM, but it's two-way. That's the thing about Robocoin. So you can put 20 quid in and, scan your wallet, QR code, get 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin.
Okay.
But equally, you can go and scan your QR code, send Bitcoin and get cash out.
Yeah.
So it works two ways.
Nice.
So yeah, that's nice. For that reason, they're quite a bit bigger. They're quite bulky.
Right.
And there's one that's turned up in an internet cafe, an independent internet cafe in Holborn, and it looks huge. Basically, it takes up about an eighth of the floor space in there. But exciting times.
All right. That's cool.
And also, this is quite interesting. They're London Underground, or the Old Street station. They're putting an ATM, a Bitcoin.
It's going to be pretty big.
Wow.
I think that's pretty exciting.
In the station.
In the station. So London Underground have actually agreed to put a
It's
Bitcoin
London Underground
ATM.
who have actually bought who are leasing.
I would imagine
ATM
it's a partnership with someone locally, but
There's a lot of footfall in there.
Yeah.
there's a lot of footfall. But the fact that London Underground are happy to put it in the station is quite big.
That's good. And I mean, Old Street is the perfect place for it. London's Silicon Roundabout. It's
even though it's one of the least attractive tube stations in
Possibly
the whole
the
of London.
worst.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, that's true.
Um,
But they'll probably get a lot of use. So
yeah, absolutely.
that's cool. And I mean, if they get enough use, then maybe they could justify rolling it out on a larger scale to other tube stations. Maybe Soho, Central London, where a lot of other creative agencies are based, and
I mean, we played a bit of devil's advocate earlier, but I mean, to really to play it again, what's the actual use case for a Bitcoin ATM? That's what I'm still struggling with slightly. So, why would I be out on the streets and want 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin?
For the exact reason, like we were just talking about, if they were just as prevalent in Russia as they are in London, or they soon will be. Instead of carrying a boatload of cash or getting your money exchanged in the post office, you could go into your Bitcoin. You could put your cash into the Bitcoin ATM in Old Street. When you get to Moscow, you could walk up to the ATM after you get off your plane, train, and just take your money out in the local currency.
That's really true. So if it was the two-way variety where you can take out cash for Bitcoin.
I think the other ones are pretty.
Yeah, sorry, we're talking about in Old Street Station. We're talking about a Bitcoin ATM where you can deposit Bitcoin, right?
I believe it's going to be a two-way one.
It's again.
You can deposit cash.
Yeah.
But you can also take cash out, having paid with Bitcoin from a mobile wallet or your QR code.
I would argue that is.
That's travel money. I mean,
that is useful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. It's
two ways.
I would use that.
Far more useful.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's more useful than getting paid in Bitcoin.
It is, and like you're saying, Sam, like the use case for needing 20 quid's worth of Bitcoin on the street is much narrower.
Yeah. I mean,
What we're saying is it could be quite useful for travel money, when going abroad.
Yeah.
But how safe would you feel taking all your travel money as a Bitcoin wallet?
Well, yeah. We wouldn't sit on the plane with holding Bitcoin. Take it that way. I wouldn't.
You'd have to be pretty brave.
You would. Does the OpenSSL bug have any bearing on the safety of Bitcoin wallets?
I'm not sure. This is an interesting one because it's literally just broke. I mean, this story is so new, and we don't really know that much about it. I guess Sam, maybe you've read a bit. It sounds like you've read a little bit more than me about it, but. Yeah, I don't know. Do you think
basically consists of to a point, SSL doesn't work if you have a certain version of SSL. Or if, obviously, the attacker would need to know how to make use of the exploit. But if they can get more data than SSL actually tries to protect. So it's actually, you'd be better off not having SSL than having this broken or this version with the bug. And obviously all these sites, like all the exchanges and everything, uses SSL because it encrypts the traffic. And so some of the exchanges have come out and said that they're working on fixes, and have like Bitstamp have stopped, like, I'm not sure if they stopped trading, but they've stopped currency withdrawal, like Bitcoin withdrawals. And I guess people to stop the scare, they've said they're working, like everybody said they're working on it. And it's not, as far as I understand it, it's not a very big fix. If you can just get the fixed version of OpenSSL set up on your server. But the biggest problem comes with, to install new dependencies like that, you might have to take your server down. You might not, and like, depending on how your technology stack is set up, you might not just be able to dump in a new version of something without it causing an outage. And then if you're going to take something down, you need to make precautions to get it set up to be able to do that. So it's not necessarily a one-click fix, even if they know how to do it.
So basically, exchanges right now are shutting down some of their services to now that everyone knows about this SSL bug, right? Just
to prevent anything bad happening. They're not saying that anything has happened or could have happened. It's just preventative in cases. And it's like, this is like internet wide. This affects like pretty much everyone that uses SSL needs to check their version, and if they've got, you can look online what the wrong version is, and there's like some code you can run to check if you're vulnerable, and then you either need to get the latest version fix or like compile OpenSSL from source. So you just kind of have to see how it develops, and if you are a developer, like read up on it. It's the heartbeat bug, and like check your version of SSL and see if you're vulnerable. It's pretty big.
Well, I'm sure all developers out there will do that, but that's all we've got time for this week. Thanks for joining us on this week's Bitcoin Stats Show. Join us next week for more, and don't forget to download the Bitcoin Stats app at bitcoinstats.co.uk. Available for iOS and Android. You can track all the latest Bitcoin prices across the top exchanges, and track all the news in Bitcoin, as well as this very show, which you can watch the latest episode in the app. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.